The cabin lights dimmed as Flight 447 cruised at 37,000 feet, somewhere over the Pacific. In Seat 7C, Dr. Alina Vasquez adjusted her noise-canceling headphones and closed her eyes, her fingers still dancing across the tablet, displaying quarterly reports from her biotech empire. The woman who had revolutionized battlefield medicine and built a fortune from saving lives now looked like any other exhausted executive returning from Tokyo. Her graying hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, designer clothes wrinkled from the 14-hour flight. What the other passengers didn't know was that the unassuming woman dozing in business class held the Distinguished Flying Cross, 2 Purple Hearts, and had once been the most feared pilot in the United States Navy. Her call sign had been Reaper, not for death, but for harvest, because she brought everyone home. The first sign something was wrong came at 3:47 hours when Captain Morrison's voice crackled over the intercom, unusually tight with controlled tension. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some minor technical difficulties and will need to make an unscheduled landing. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." Alina's eyes snapped open. 23 years of military service had honed her instincts, and Morrison's voice carried the particular strain of a man trying not to panic his passengers. She pulled off her headphones and listened. The engine note was wrong, subtle, but wrong. More troubling was the complete absence of normal radio chatter that should be audible through the thin cabin walls. Through her window, she spotted them. 4 FA-18 Super Hornets maintaining formation off the port wing, their navigation lights cutting through the pre-dawn darkness like predatory eyes. This wasn't an escort. This was an intercept. Her heart rate remained steady muscle memory, keeping her calm while her mind raced through possibilities. Hijacking seemed unlikely given the fighter presence. Mechanical emergency didn't explain the radio silence or the military response. She unbuckled quietly and moved toward the cockpit, her businessman's facade hiding the warrior's assessment of her surroundings. The flight attendants were clustered near first class, whispering urgently. One noticed her approach. "Ma'am, please return to your seat." "Tell Captain Morrison that Reaper is on board," Alina said quietly. "He'll understand." The attendant's confusion was evident, but something in Alina's tone made her comply. Within seconds, the cockpit door cracked open, and Morrison's weathered face appeared, his expression shifting from skepticism to recognition to something approaching relief. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "Alina Vasquez, I thought you were just some tech billionaire now." "I am," she replied evenly, "but some things you never stop being. What's our situation, Captain?" The mystery deepening around Flight 447 would soon reveal that Dr. Alina Vasquez's past had finally caught up with her present, and the sky above the Pacific was about to become a battlefield where her two worlds would collide. Morrison stepped aside, allowing her into the cockpit where the true scope of their predicament became clear. The radio was dead, not malfunctioning, but systematically jammed across all frequencies. The GPS showed their position as a blank void, and the transponder had been remotely disabled. Someone with serious resources wanted Flight 447 invisible to civilian air traffic control. "Started 20 minutes ago," Morrison explained, his co-pilot nodding grimly. "Lost all communication simultaneously. Then our escorts showed up, but they're not responding to emergency frequencies either." Alina studied the instrument panel with the practiced eye of someone who had spent years reading avionics under combat stress. The engine parameters were stable, fuel levels normal, all flight systems operational. This wasn't about bringing the plane down. It was about taking it somewhere specific. "They're hurting us," she realized aloud. "The jammers are localized, probably from a ship below. The fighters are maintaining position to guide us to a predetermined coordinates." Through the reinforced cockpit windows, she watched the lead Super Hornets pilot. Even at this distance, she could see the precise, economical movements of someone supremely confident in their aircraft. These weren't training flights or routine intercepts. These pilots were operating under combat protocols. Her tablet chimed with an encrypted message that shouldn't have been possible given the communication blackout. The sender was listed only as Ghost Protocol, but Alina recognized the military-grade encryption signature. Someone was using quantum-encrypted satellite burst transmission, technology that existed in only a handful of locations worldwide. The message was brief. "Welcome home, Reaper. Your country needs you one more time." Alina felt the familiar weight of destiny settling on her shoulders, the same sensation she'd experienced before every major operation during her Navy years. But this time was different. She wasn't a 25-year-old pilot eager to prove herself. She was 53, wealthy, and had already given her best years to service. The co-pilot was studying her with barely concealed awe. "You're really her, aren't you? The pilot from Operation Blackwater." Alina's jaw tightened. Blackwater was classified beyond top secret, buried so deep that officially it had never happened. Yet somehow this young officer knew enough to recognize her. The implication sent ice through her veins. "How many people on this flight?" she asked Morrison. 237 passengers, crew of 12. Alina nodded grimly. Whatever was happening, someone had orchestrated it to specifically involve her, using nearly 250 innocent lives as leverage. The Alina Vasquez who had built a biotechnology empire would have looked for diplomatic solutions, legal remedies, corporate negotiations. But Reaper understood the brutal mathematics of asymmetric warfare. Sometimes the only way to save lives was to risk everything. The lead fighter suddenly banked left, a signal she recognized from her carrier days. Their destination was becoming clear, and Alina realized she was about to discover whether her legendary reputation could survive one final test. The descent began gradually, so smoothly that most passengers probably attributed it to normal flight adjustments. But Alina watched the altimeter unwind and felt the slight pressure change that meant they were dropping toward a very specific altitude, one that would put them below radar coverage, but above the range of most surface-to-air missiles. Morrison was fighting to maintain some semblance of control, his hands steady on the yoke despite the sweat beading on his forehead. 28 years of commercial aviation hadn't prepared him for this level of precision flying under duress, but he was adapting with the quiet professionalism that Alina remembered from her own service days. "Range to destination?" she asked. "If they're taking us where I think they are, about 40 minutes, the co-pilot replied, studying charts that wouldn't officially show their apparent destination. "There's a private airfield on Miura Peninsula, 10,000-foot runway, built during the Cold War for emergency diplomatic evacuations." Alina nodded. She knew the facility, had landed there once during a classified operation in 1998. The kind of place that existed in the shadows between legitimate government activities and operations that required absolute deniability. If someone was using Miura, they had resources that transcended normal military or intelligence channels. Her tablet chimed again with another impossible message. "Passenger manifest includes Deputy Director Chen, NSA, Admiral Rodriguez, Joint Chiefs, Dr. Sarah Kim, DARPA Advanced Research. This is not about you alone." Alina's blood chilled as she realized the scope of what was happening. Flight 447 wasn't just carrying one retired military asset. It was loaded with some of the most sensitive minds in American intelligence and defense. Someone had orchestrated a perfect storm, gathering key figures under the cover of a routine international flight. She moved through the cabin with purpose now, no longer maintaining her civilian disguise. Her trained eye cataloged the passengers, identifying faces she recognized from classified briefings and Pentagon corridors. Deputy Director Chen was in 12A, pretending to sleep but clearly alert. Admiral Rodriguez occupied 15F, his casual clothes unable to disguise the bearing of someone accustomed to commanding naval operations. They were all here, all the architects of America's most sensitive programs, trapped at 35,000 feet by someone who had turned a commercial airliner into the world's most exclusive prison. The question wasn't just who had orchestrated this. It was what they wanted badly enough to risk an international incident involving some of the most protected individuals in the defense establishment. As Alina made her way back toward the cockpit, she caught Rodriguez's eye. The recognition was immediate and mutual. His slight nod carried 20 years of shared history and the understanding that whatever was about to happen would require the best from both of them. The fighters were tightening their formation now, and through the cabin windows, Alina could see the Japanese coastline approaching. Whatever test awaited Reaper was about to begin. The Miura facility appeared exactly as Alina remembered it, a sterile concrete ribbon carved into the mountainside, surrounded by the kind of infrastructure that screamed government black site. As Flight 447 touched down with Morrison's characteristically smooth technique, Alina noted the absence of normal airport activity. No ground crew, no terminal lights, just a handful of military vehicles positioned at precise intervals along the taxiway. The engine spooled down to silence, and Captain Morrison's voice returned to the cabin intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've landed at a secure facility due to security concerns. Please remain seated until further instructions." Alina was already moving before he finished speaking. 23 years of military training had taught her that the moment of landing was when situations became most unpredictable. Enemies expected confusion, hesitation, the normal human response to being removed from familiar circumstances. They didn't expect someone who had spent decades turning uncertainty into tactical advantage. She reached the cockpit as the first ground vehicles approached the aircraft. Black SUVs with diplomatic plates, but the occupants wore the unmistakable bearing of military personnel trying to look civilian. Through the cockpit windows, she watched them deploy with textbook precision, too professional to be contractors, too careful to be anything but special operations. "Any word from them yet?" Alina asked Morrison. "Negative. Radio silence continues, but they've given us taxi instructions via light signals." He pointed toward the lead vehicle, where someone was directing them with marshalling wands toward a specific parking position. "Very specific about placement. They want us positioned exactly parallel to that hangar." Alina studied the hangar in question, noting the blast-resistant construction and the absence of windows. Whatever happened next would happen inside that building, away from satellite surveillance or electronic monitoring. Someone had planned this operation with meticulous attention to operational security. The aircraft door opened with a hydraulic hiss, and Alina felt the familiar rush of foreign air, slightly humid, carrying the scent of aviation fuel and mountain pine. A figure in a crisp business suit approached up the jetway stairs, moving with the controlled grace of someone comfortable with violence, but currently playing a different role. "Dr. Vasquez," the figure called out, and Alina stepped forward to meet her. The woman was younger than Alina by perhaps 15 years, with the kind of tan that spoke of time spent in desert climates and eyes that cataloged everything while revealing nothing. "I'm Colonel Sarah Mitchell, Defense Intelligence Agency. We need to talk." Alina descended the stairs slowly, her mind processing everything. Mitchell's slight favor of her left leg suggesting old shrapnel wounds, the way she positioned herself to maintain visual contact with both the aircraft and the hangar, the fact that she had used Alina's civilian name while identifying herself with military rank. "Colonel," Alina replied evenly, "this is quite an elaborate way to request a meeting." Mitchell's smile was razor-thin. "The circumstances required unconventional approaches. Your reputation for avoiding official channels is well documented." As they walked toward the hangar, Alina became aware of the other passengers disembarking behind them. Admiral Rodriguez, Deputy Director Chen, Dr. Kim, all the faces she had identified during the flight. Whatever this was, it required all of them. The hangar doors opened to reveal a situation room that wouldn't have looked out of place in the Pentagon's most secure levels. Multiple screens displayed satellite imagery, communication intercepts, and tactical overlays that Alina recognized as real-time intelligence feeds. This wasn't a kidnapping, it was a recruitment. The atmosphere inside the hangar was electric with tension and barely contained energy. Alina recognized the feeling from her Navy days, the moment before a critical briefing when everyone knew the mission would be unlike anything they had faced before. Technicians moved between workstations with practiced efficiency, their civilian clothes unable to disguise the military precision in their movements. Colonel Mitchell gestured toward a semicircle of chairs facing the largest display screen. "Please, take a seat. We'll begin shortly." Alina remained standing, her trained eye cataloging the room's details. Emergency exits, communication equipment, the subtle bulges under technicians' jackets that suggested concealed weapons. This facility had been prepared for their arrival with extraordinary thoroughness. Admiral Rodriguez approached, extending his hand with the easy familiarity of old comrades. "Alina, been a long time since Blackwater." "Diego." She clasped his hand, feeling the firm grip of someone who had maintained his physical conditioning despite decades behind a desk. "I assume you also received an invitation you couldn't refuse." His expression darkened slightly. "My grandchildren's school received a credible bomb threat this morning. Turned out to be false, but the timing was remarkably coincidental." Deputy Director Chen joined them, his usual diplomatic composure strained around the edges. "My wife's heart surgery was mysteriously rescheduled. Something about a more experienced surgeon becoming suddenly available." His voice carried the weight of someone who understood exactly how precise such manipulations had to be. Alina felt the familiar chill of professional respect for whoever had orchestrated this gathering. Bringing together this specific group required intelligence-gathering capabilities that transcended normal agency boundaries. Someone with access to NSA communication intercepts, military personnel files, and civilian medical records had spent considerable time planning this operation. Dr. Kim approached more hesitantly, her youth evident despite the confidence that came with being DARPA's youngest division chief. "Dr. Vasquez, I've followed your biotechnology work. The neural interface patents have revolutionary implications for—" "Doctor," Alina interrupted gently, "I suspect we're not here to discuss patent applications." The main display screen flickered to life, showing a satellite image of the South China Sea. Red markers indicated naval vessel positions, while blue triangles showed American assets. The tactical picture was immediately familiar to Alina, a classic standoff position, with forces positioned for rapid escalation. Colonel Mitchell called for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. What you're seeing represents a situation that developed 36 hours ago. At 800 hours local time, Chinese naval forces established a blockade around the Spratly Islands, claiming exclusive territorial rights based on newly discovered archaeological evidence." Alina studied the display with growing unease. The Chinese positioning was too precise, too well-coordinated to be an opportunistic grab. This had been planned with the same meticulous attention to detail as their own recruitment. "The archaeological evidence," Mitchell continued, "consists of artifacts that appear to validate historical Chinese claims to the entire South China Sea. However, our analysis suggests these artifacts are sophisticated forgeries, planted to provide legal justification for territorial expansion." The implications hit Alina immediately. If China could legitimize their territorial claims through manufactured historical evidence, they would control one of the world's most critical shipping lanes. The economic and strategic consequences would reshape global power balances for decades. Admiral Rodriguez leaned forward. What's our current naval response posture? Officially, we're maintaining freedom of navigation patrols. Unofficially, we have 3 carrier groups positioning for potential conflict escalation. Mitchell's expression remained neutral, but Alina caught the subtle tension in her voice. The situation is complicated by the fact that several of our most sensitive intelligence assets have gone dark in the region. Alina felt the pieces clicking together. The gathering of America's most capable minds, the secure facility, the tactical situation in the South China Sea. Someone needed a team capable of operations that couldn't be officially acknowledged. The kind of mission that required people with nothing left to prove and everything to lose. "Colonel," Alina said quietly, "I think you should tell us what you really need us to do." The lights dimmed as Mitchell activated additional displays, showing detailed intelligence reports that made Alina's breath catch. Satellite imagery revealed Chinese naval positions that were impossibly sophisticated, coordinated with a precision that suggested foreign assistance. More troubling were the communication intercepts showing encrypted traffic between Chinese command structures and unknown third parties. 72 hours ago, Mitchell began, we detected massive data transfers from servers located in 3 different countries, servers that contained backup files of every major intelligence database in the Western Hemisphere. Personnel files, operational plans, asset locations, everything. Alina felt the familiar weight of understanding settling on her chest. This wasn't about territorial disputes or archaeological discoveries. Someone had orchestrated the largest intelligence breach in history, and the South China Sea situation was either a distraction or a direct consequence. The transfers were routed through proxy servers, but our analysis suggests coordination between Chinese intelligence, Russian SVR, and at least one non-state actor with resources that rival major governments. Mitchell paused, letting the implications sink in. We believe someone is planning to neutralize American intelligence capabilities permanently. Deputy Director Chen spoke first. What kind of timeline are we looking at? Based on the data transfer patterns and current military positioning, we estimate 6 days before they move from preparation to execution. The South China Sea blockade provides perfect cover for electronic warfare operations that could blind our satellite networks. Alina studied the faces around her, recognizing the mixture of professional interest and growing dread. Each person in this room represented decades of experience in their respective fields, but none of them had faced a threat of this magnitude. Dr. Kim raised her hand tentatively. What about our cybersecurity protocols? Surely the data transfers would have triggered. They did, Mitchell interrupted. Every automated system we have identified the breach within hours. The problem is that someone had prepositioned malware in our response systems. Every time we tried to counter the breach, we inadvertently provided them with additional access points. Alina recognized the signature of operational planning that went beyond normal intelligence work. Whoever had orchestrated this understood American systems well enough to turn their own security measures against them. The level of access required suggested insider knowledge combined with foreign technical capability. "You're talking about a mole," she said quietly. "Someone with access to our most sensitive systems, working with foreign intelligence services to create a perfect storm." Mitchell nodded grimly. "That's our assessment. Someone who understands our capabilities well enough to neutralize them systematically." The room fell silent as everyone processed the implications. Alina found herself thinking about the 250 innocent passengers on Flight 447, probably being held in a nearby facility while this briefing continued. The scope of the operation suggested resources and planning that went far beyond normal intelligence work. "What do you need from us?" Admiral Rodriguez asked. his voice carrying the weight of someone who had already decided to accept whatever mission was coming. Colonel Mitchell activated one final display, showing detailed personnel files for each person in the room. Elena recognized her own service record, including operations that were supposed to remain classified forever. "We need you to do what you do best," Mitchell said simply. "We need you to be legends one more time." The mission parameters were unlike anything Elena had encountered during her active service years. No official oversight, no chain of command beyond the people in this room, and operational freedom that came with the understanding that failure would mean the collapse of American intelligence capabilities worldwide. "The target," Mitchell explained, activating a detailed schematic, "is a facility designated as Research Station Omega, located approximately 200 nautical miles southeast of the Spratly Islands. Our satellite imagery shows it as a marine biology research platform, but signal intelligence indicates it's the coordination center for the entire operation." Elena studied the schematics with growing respect for whoever had designed the facility. It appeared to be a legitimate scientific research station, complete with marine laboratories and academic personnel, but the underlying infrastructure screamed military installation. Power generation capacity was far beyond what marine research would require, and the communication arrays were positioned for maximum signal coverage across the South China Sea. "Infiltration seems problematic," Admiral Rodriguez observed, noting the defensive positions and patrol boat schedules displayed on the tactical overlay. "They've got overlapping radar coverage and what appears to be a full company of security personnel." "Direct assault is out of the question," Deputy Director Chen added. "Even if we could coordinate military support, the political ramifications of attacking what appears to be a civilian research facility would be catastrophic." Elena felt the familiar rush of tactical problem-solving that had defined her Navy career. The challenge wasn't just getting to the facility. It was doing so in a way that wouldn't trigger international incidents while still accomplishing the mission objectives. "What about the marine research aspect?" she asked Mitchell. "Is there any legitimate scientific activity taking place?" "Actually, yes. The facility is conducting genuine marine biology research, including studies on deep-sea mining impacts and coral reef restoration. They've published papers in peer-reviewed journals and maintain active collaborations with universities worldwide." Dr. Kim leaned forward with interest. "That provides perfect cover. Academic researchers frequently visit marine stations for collaborative work. If we could establish legitimate academic credentials." Elena nodded, seeing the operational possibilities. "A research team investigating marine biotechnology applications for medical research. My company has legitimate interests in that area, and Dr. Kim's DARPA background provides the technical expertise." Mitchell smiled for the first time since the briefing began. "That's exactly what we were hoping you would conclude. Your reputation for improvisation under pressure is well documented." The plan taking shape in Elena's mind was ambitious but achievable. Using her biotechnology company as cover, they could approach Research Station Omega as a legitimate academic collaboration, using the facility's own scientific credentials to gain access to the underlying intelligence operation. "What about timeline?" Admiral Rodriguez asked. "You mentioned 6 days before they move to execution." 3 days to establish academic credentials and arrange the visit, 1 day for travel to the facility, leaving 2 days for intelligence gathering and sabotage before they realize what we're doing." Mitchell's expression remained neutral, but Elena caught the subtle tension that suggested the timeline was optimistic. Elena looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. These weren't young military officers eager for glory. They were experienced professionals who understood exactly what they were volunteering for. The mission's success would depend on each person performing at levels they might not have reached for years. "I'm in," she said quietly, and watched the relief flicker across Mitchell's face. The next 6 hours blurred together in a symphony of preparation that reminded Alina why she had fallen in love with military precision. Within minutes of accepting the mission, the hangar transformed into a fully operational command center, with specialists appearing from hidden doorways to assist with every aspect of operational planning. Alina found herself working closely with a team of identity specialists who were crafting bulletproof academic credentials for the entire team. Her biotechnology background provided the perfect foundation, but the details required extraordinary attention to authenticity. Research papers were backdated into academic databases, conference presentations were inserted into archived proceedings, and professional relationships were established through carefully manipulated communication records. Your new identity is Dr. Alina Martinez, marine biotechnology researcher specializing in extremophile bacteria with potential medical applications, the lead specialist explained, handing her a tablet loaded with technical papers. You've published 12 papers in the field over the past 3 years, and your research has been cited by legitimate scientists worldwide. Alina scanned the papers with growing admiration for the operation's sophistication. The research was technically sound, built on actual scientific principles that she could understand and defend under questioning. Someone had invested serious resources in creating identities that would survive professional scrutiny. Admiral Rodriguez was being transformed into Dr. Robert Diaz, a maritime systems engineering consultant with expertise in deep-sea research platforms. His decades of naval experience provided perfect background for the role, while his command presence would help establish team credibility with facility personnel. Deputy Director Chen became Dr. Michael Wang, a data systems specialist focusing on marine research database integration. His intelligence background translated perfectly to managing research data systems, while his diplomatic training would be crucial for navigating the facility's international academic environment. Dr. Kim required the least transformation, becoming Dr. Sarah Kim, exactly who she actually was, a DARPA researcher interested in marine biotechnology applications for advanced materials research. Her legitimate credentials would provide authenticity for the entire team. Alina was reviewing technical specifications for extremophile bacteria cultivation when Colonel Mitchell approached with additional mission materials. These contain everything we know about Research Station Omega's personnel, daily operations, and security protocols. The facility director is Dr. Liu Wei, a legitimate marine biologist with an impressive academic record and no apparent intelligence connections. Alina studied Dr. Liu's photograph and background, recognizing the challenge of distinguishing between legitimate scientific personnel and intelligence operatives. The facility's cover was so thorough that most people working there might not know about its secondary function. "What about extraction?" Alina asked. "Once we gather the intelligence and neutralize their operations, how do we get out?" Mitchell's expression grew serious. "That depends on how much they discover about your true purpose. Best case scenario, you complete the mission and leave as scheduled academics. Worst case." She trailed off, but Alina understood the implications. Alina nodded, feeling the familiar weight of missions where success depended on factors beyond their control. During her Navy years, she had learned to compartmentalize such concerns, focusing on mission execution while maintaining awareness of changing circumstances. The transformation continued throughout the night, with Alina memorizing technical details about marine biotechnology while simultaneously reviewing tactical plans for intelligence gathering and sabotage. By dawn, she felt confident in her ability to discuss bacterial cultivation techniques while planning infiltration of a sophisticated intelligence facility. As the sun rose over the Miura facility, Alina stood before a mirror examining her transformation. The expensive business clothes had been replaced with practical academic attire. Her hair was styled in the slightly disheveled manner of someone more concerned with research than appearance, and her entire demeanor had shifted to project intellectual curiosity rather than military precision. Colonel Mitchell appeared behind her, holding final mission documents. Your transportation to Research Station Omega departs in 6 hours. Commercial flight to Manila, then chartered boat to the facility. Dr. Liu is expecting you tomorrow evening. Alina accepted the documents, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with operations where failure meant consequences far beyond personal survival. The intelligence breach had the potential to reshape global power structures, and their small team represented the only chance of preventing catastrophe. "Colonel," Alina said quietly, "what happens to the passengers from Flight 447? They're being held in comfortable accommodations at a secure facility. Once this mission is complete, they'll be returned to their lives with appropriate cover stories and compensation for the inconvenience." Alina nodded, though something in Mitchell's tone suggested the situation was more complicated than she was revealing. In operations of this magnitude, there were always details that couldn't be shared until circumstances required it. As Alina prepared for the mission ahead, she found herself thinking about the transformation from Dr. Alina Vasquez, billionaire entrepreneur, to Reaper, legendary Navy pilot, to Dr. Alina Martinez, marine biotechnology researcher. Each identity represented different aspects of her capabilities, but all of them would be necessary for mission success. The chartered boat that would transport them to Research Station Omega was a legitimate marine research vessel, complete with scientific equipment and academic credentials that would satisfy any inspection. Alina stood on the deck as they approached the facility, watching the structure resolve from a distant speck into an impressive feat of marine engineering. Research Station Omega rose from the South China Sea like a technological island, its multiple levels and communication arrays creating a silhouette that spoke of serious scientific ambition. The facility's designers had achieved the perfect balance between legitimate research capability and concealed intelligence operations, with nothing in its external appearance suggesting anything beyond marine biology studies. Dr. Liu Wei met them at the boat dock personally, his enthusiasm for their research collaboration evident in his animated discussion of facility capabilities. Alina found herself genuinely impressed by his knowledge of marine biotechnology, recognizing that his academic credentials were completely legitimate regardless of any intelligence connections. "Dr. Martinez," Dr. Liu said warmly, "your papers on extremophile bacteria applications have been particularly influential in our research planning. We're excited to show you our cultivation facilities." Alina responded with the appropriate mixture of professional interest and academic excitement, while her trained eye cataloged security measures and communication equipment visible throughout the facility. The balance between maintaining her academic cover and gathering intelligence information required constant mental adjustment. The facility tour revealed impressive scientific capabilities that exceeded what Alina had expected from the intelligence briefings. Research laboratories were equipped with cutting-edge analytical equipment. Cultivation chambers maintained precise environmental controls for marine organism studies, and data processing systems could handle massive biological datasets. Dr. Kim engaged Dr. Liu in technical discussions about marine organism cultivation, while Alina noted the facility's communication arrays and power distribution systems. The infrastructure was designed to support operations far beyond marine research, but everything was integrated so seamlessly that distinguishing between legitimate and intelligence functions required careful observation. Admiral Rodriguez, operating as Dr. Diaz, focused on the facility's engineering systems and maritime operations capabilities. His questions about power generation and communication systems were perfectly appropriate for someone evaluating research platform design, while providing crucial intelligence about the facility's true capabilities. Deputy Director Chen, as Dr. Wang, concentrated on data systems and information management protocols. His expertise in intelligence data handling translated perfectly to research database management, allowing him to gather information about the facility's information processing capabilities without raising suspicion. Alina found herself genuinely enjoying the academic discussions while maintaining constant awareness of mission objectives. Dr. Liu's passion for marine research was infectious, and she realized that many facility personnel were legitimate scientists who had no knowledge of intelligence operations taking place around them. As evening approached, Alina prepared for the more dangerous aspects of their mission, knowing that intelligence gathering would require movement through areas of the facility that weren't part of normal academic tour. The facility's evening routine provided perfect cover for intelligence gathering operations. Most research personnel retired to quarters after dinner, leaving only essential systems monitoring and security patrols to navigate around. Alina had memorized patrol schedules and facility layouts during the afternoon tour, identifying opportunities for accessing restricted areas without triggering security protocols. Her first objective was the communication center, located in the facility's upper levels behind areas marked as administrative offices. Alina's academic credentials provided legitimate reasons for being in office areas after hours. Researchers frequently worked unusual schedules, and facility personnel were accustomed to seeing scientists at all hours. The Communications Center revealed the true scope of Research Station Omega's intelligence capabilities. Banks of sophisticated encryption equipment lined the walls, satellite communication arrays provided global connectivity, and data processing systems could handle intelligence traffic far beyond anything required for marine research. Alina used specialized equipment provided by Mitchell's team to copy hard drives and communication logs, gathering evidence of the intelligence breach while avoiding detection by facility security systems. The data transfers she discovered confirmed their worst fears. Research Station Omega was the coordination center for operations involving American intelligence assets worldwide. Communication intercepts revealed coordination between Chinese intelligence services, Russian SVR operatives, and unknown third parties with access to American classified databases. The scope of the intelligence breach was even more comprehensive than Mitchell had indicated, involving personnel files, operational plans, and technical specifications for sensitive military systems. Alina photographed documents detailing planned operations against American intelligence assets, including assassination lists and sabotage targets. The timeline showed coordinated strikes planned for the following day, with Research Station Omega serving as the command center for operations across multiple continents. The sabotage phase required even more precision than intelligence gathering. Alina needed to disable the facility's communication and data processing capabilities without alerting personnel to her presence or permanently damaging legitimate research operations. The challenge was distinguishing between systems supporting intelligence operations and those required for marine research. Using technical expertise gained from years in military electronics, Alina introduced carefully designed malware into the facility's data networks. The programs were designed to activate simultaneously, creating cascading system failures that would appear to be technical malfunctions rather than sabotage. Communication arrays were disabled through subtle modifications to power distribution systems, creating intermittent failures that would prevent coordination with outside intelligence operations, while appearing to be routine maintenance issues. Alina's final objective was the facility's central server complex, where evidence of the intelligence breach was stored along with operational plans for attacks against American assets. Destroying the servers would prevent coordination of planned operations, but it would also alert facility personnel to the true nature of her team's presence. As Alina prepared explosive charges that would destroy the server complex while minimizing damage to surrounding areas, she realized that extraction was about to become significantly more complicated than originally planned. The explosion, when it came, was precisely calibrated to appear accidental while completely destroying the server complex. Alina had positioned charges to suggest electrical overload rather than sabotage, but she knew that facility security would quickly realize the truth once they began investigating the extent of the damage. Alarms began sounding throughout Research Station Omega as Alina made her way back toward guest quarters, maintaining the appearance of a confused academic awakened by emergency alerts. The facility's personnel were responding exactly as expected, research staff evacuating to emergency stations, while security teams moved to investigate the explosion. Alina rendezvoused with Admiral Rodriguez in the facility's main corridor, both maintaining their academic personas while coordinating extraction through subtle hand signals developed during their military careers. The challenge was reaching Dr. Kim and Deputy Director Chen without alerting security to their coordination. Dr. Liu Wei appeared genuinely distressed by the facility damage, his concern for research data and equipment clearly authentic. Alina felt a moment of sympathy for the legitimate scientists whose work was being disrupted by intelligence operations they knew nothing about. Dr. Martinez, Dr. Liu called out, approaching with obvious relief at seeing his guests safe. We're evacuating all non-essential personnel to the boat dock as a precautionary measure. Please gather your research materials and meet at the emergency assembly area. Alina nodded with appropriate concern, while noting that facility security personnel were establishing defensive positions around critical areas. Someone was already suspicious about the explosion's timing and extent, suggesting their mission window was closing rapidly. The emergency evacuation provided perfect cover for team extraction, but Alina realized that Research Station Omega's communication capabilities had been restored more quickly than anticipated. Her sabotage had caused significant damage, but redundant systems were allowing limited coordination with outside intelligence operations. As they moved toward the boat dock, Alina noticed increased radio traffic from facility security and the presence of additional personnel who hadn't been visible during their afternoon tour. Someone was mobilizing resources beyond what would be expected for an accidental explosion. Admiral Rodriguez caught her attention with a subtle gesture toward the horizon, where navigation lights indicated approaching vessels. Their extraction was about to become a race between their chartered research boat and whatever reinforcements were responding to the facility's emergency calls. Alina felt the familiar rush of operations where success depended on precise timing and coordinated execution under pressure. The intelligence gathering had been successful. The sabotage had disrupted planned operations against American assets, but extraction would determine whether their mission achievements translated into strategic victory. Dr. Kim and Deputy Director Chen appeared at the emergency assembly area with appropriate academic confusion about the facility evacuation. But Alina noted the subtle positioning that indicated they were prepared for more complex extraction scenarios if necessary. As their chartered boat prepared to depart Research Station Omega, Alina realized that their mission success had created new challenges that would require all their combined expertise to navigate successfully. The chartered research vessel pulled away from Research Station Omega just as the first military patrol boats appeared on the horizon, their powerful searchlights sweeping the water in coordinated search patterns. Alina stood on the deck watching the facility recede, knowing that their mission success had triggered responses that would complicate extraction significantly. Captain Torres, their boat's operator, was a legitimate marine charter captain with no knowledge of intelligence operations, but his decades of experience navigating South China Sea waters made him perfect for avoiding official attention. Alina had briefed him on potential, bureaucratic complications that might require creative navigation to avoid extended questioning by local authorities. Dr. Martinez, Torres called from the bridge, "We've got multiple vessels converging on our position. Looks like Chinese patrol boats and possibly some unmarked craft. They're requesting permission to board for inspection." Alina exchanged glances with Admiral Rodriguez, both recognizing the tactical situation developing around them. The approaching vessels were positioned to prevent escape while maintaining plausible deniability about their intentions toward a legitimate academic research group. Deputy Director Chen was monitoring radio communications with equipment disguised as marine research electronics, translating intercepts between Chinese patrol boats and an unknown coordination center. They're looking for specific individuals, not conducting routine inspections. Someone has identified our true purpose. Dr. Kim was using her technical expertise to analyze electronic signatures from the approaching vessels, identifying military-grade radar systems and communication equipment that exceeded normal patrol boat capabilities. These aren't standard maritime police units. We're looking at military assets disguised as civilian enforcement. Alina realized that research station, Omega's intelligence network,